record these things. Okay, now we're being recorded. So yeah, so one thing you need to do is make sure if you scout these locations first. So that way, when your model shows up, you know you're not there for 2.5 hours. You should be able to do it in an hour. Okay. So the more prepared you are on the front end of the job, the better it's going to be when you actually shoot it. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Michael, that makes sense to you, buddy?
I had to step away. I'm sorry for a split second.
That's okay.
And
No, what I was saying was, you know, if you know if you know who you want to shoot and where you want to shoot them, my advice to everyone is to go out, go the day before, go 2 days before, at some point, and know where you want them to be. All right. Don't have them show up at a time and then you're not quite sure what you're going to do with them. It's your first time to get to this location. It just makes you look very unprofessional and unprepared, and the chances of them wanting to model for you again will be, you know, nil. Okay. I mean, unless they're getting paid to be there, I mean, they have lives just like we do, and so their time is precious. So, you know, if you have an idea of where you want to shoot them, just take your camera out the day before and take a couple test shots of just the location. Let's just see the environment and visualize where you want them to be within that environment. All right. When I teach the environmental portrait class, you know, one of the assignments is, you know, you're going to go out and shoot environments. There's no people in it. You're just shooting environments. All right. And it's your job in critique to explain to me where you would put an individual and why you would put them in a certain place. So again, the environment is just as important as the individual who's in the shot. If, and again, I'm gonna kind of relate this to as a working photographer. You know, if you get hired to do a shoot and the model shows up and the art director shows up and you haven't prepared, you haven't scouted the location, you're not, you know, really sure on what you're doing, it's going to show, guys. And it's going to be a bad look on the photographer, and the chances of working for that client again, probably not great. So even though this is just a class, you're just doing this for a grade, you know, this is really good practice for you. Okay. I'm your client. Be prepared. Don't go into this. Don't do this to the people who are willing to sit in front of your camera and, you know, have them out there for 2.5 hours or something with mosquitoes buzzing their tower and all that stuff. Okay. Be prepared, know what you want to do with them. When they get there, you know, just be confident in what you're doing. Let them know you are in control. When they feel like, okay, this photographer's in control, they know what they're doing, they're going to relax for you. Okay. And they're going to give you a better look once they're in front of the camera. Okay. It's about looking confident, looking like you know what you're doing, and that in turn is going to really relax your subject and get them to, you know, just look more natural in front of the camera. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
All right. And there's a lot that goes into this stuff, guys. I understand that. You know, and but it's just what it is. I think it's a really good learning experience, and everybody should, you know, do this. And I would highly recommend, if I ever get to teach the class again, you know, taking the environmental portrait class, because it's, I mean, I just think it was probably the best class I ever took when I was in college. It was definitely the hardest, and that probably had to do more with the volume of work that we were required to turn every week. But I learned probably more about photography in that class probably than any other, because of, you know, and the instructor I had was very good, and I know now, I understand now, kind of the method to his madness, on how he taught it. But working with people, I mean that's part of anything you do out there. It doesn't matter whether you're a photographer or not. Professionally, when you have a job, you have to work with people, and certainly being a photographer, having certain people skills and social skills, dealing with people, I mean, it's an important part of it. And it's a part that people don't really think about. It's not just about taking pictures. You know, taking pictures, that's kind of the easy part, guys. Once you learn and you're comfortable with your camera and you're confident in what you're doing, taking pictures is easy. You know, it's getting out, it's getting the work, keeping your clients happy. That becomes the hard part. So use these assignments, whatever class you take, this class, next semester if you take another class, use these assignments to train yourself to really think about, you know, why are these instructors making me do this? You know, and what these assignments do, they prepare you. They, you know, you should be so confident using your camera. There's always going to be a curveball thrown your way. Things aren't going to go perfect every time. But you know what? You just take a deep breath. You're grounded. You know what you're doing. You've got a really good education in photography. Take a deep breath and you figure it out. You don't panic. You never want to panic in front of a model, in front of a client. So just remember, you know, and I always tell my students, keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate things. This can be hard enough. Just keep it simple. Simple portraits. All right. Some of the stuff we looked at last week were just simple portraits. And that's what I want you guys to look for when you're doing this stuff. Don't overcomplicate things. Were you guys able to look at those images again that I posted?
Yes.
Okay. Now I do have a question. Have any of you had to gone back and listen to the recordings of these critiques?
No, not yet.
Because I had
I
someone.
really don't know how to do it.
Well, you know what? I had someone contact me saying they couldn't find the recording. And once you're in Collaborate, if you go to the left, upper left, and there's a session menu, you should be able to click on that and it'll give you all the recordings. And I've recorded pretty much every critique this semester. Of course, this one I got clicked on a little late. Sometimes I forget to click on it at the start, but they said they were having problems finding it. And I have no problem finding it. And all of them are there. And when I go into the setup, it says share with members of the class. So everybody should be able to get into the recordings. If you're looking if you want to go back and look at a critique or a lecture, if you go to that top left corner, once you're in Collaborate, and there's a session menu up there, you click on it, and you should be able to find recordings in there. If you ever want to go back and look at one of the critiques. So, you know, when we're done tonight, I'd like for you guys to try to do it just to see if you can, whether you want to look at them or not, and let me know. Email me and let me know if you were able to do it, because there are other options available. I can always copy the link and send people the link if they can't get to it and collaborate. But I can't figure out what. Excuse me?
I'm sorry. I think that I tried once. When I click, it's just the link to the call. So like a new call. So to join a session.
It wasn't the recording?
No.
Do we need to do a login and password or something?
I don't think so. I think once you're in the course in eCampus, you should be able to see it tonight. Once we're done here today, I'll stop the recording, and then because you know, again, I went to it multiple times today to try to figure out why they weren't able to see them, and all the recordings are there, and it says to share. Now there was one option for me to share with the public or just share with class members. I just put share with class members. Because and if you're on the roster, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to see that. Maybe if I click share with public, that maybe that'll open it up for some people. I'll try that if it doesn't work after tonight. But I just want to know, because you can go back and look at any one of the critiques we've had this semester, any one of the lectures. They're all recorded. You guys can go and look at them. So just know that resource is there for you, okay? And if you can't find it, contact me and I can actually copy the link and send it to you. Excuse me. Any other questions?
No, I don't have any.
I'm sorry, sir, I did have a question. And
Okay.
just to be sure, this is natural light
Yes.
portraiture. This is, we cannot use flash.
No flash.
Okay.
Natural light. Yeah, absolutely. Makes it a little tougher, but it's challenging, and it should be a challenge. I do have a question for you guys. I have to work next Thursday when we normally would do this Zoom meeting. Would you guys be able to meet on Wednesday by chance? Because I mean, the images are due next Wednesday anyway, at 5 o'clock or whatever time I put. Would you be willing to meet on a Wednesday night? Does that work for you guys?
No, not for me.
No.
I don't think that I can, sir. Not on.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
No, you know what? I just may be running late. Okay, that's all.
Okay.
I should be able to get home on time, but you just never know. For some jobs, they run over. So I will put that in my email when I send the link out next Thursday morning. Just to bear with me. It may be 9. It may be 7:15, 7:20 before I get home, but I'm going to do my best to get home before 7. Okay. If it goes real late and I can't leave the studio till by 7, I'll just hop on my studio computer and I'll do it from the studio. I'd rather not do that, but I should be able to be home by 7 o'clock. That's my plan, but just to make sure. So we won't worry about that. We will plan on doing the critique next Thursday night. So no more questions. You guys don't have any questions about, do you want to go over that
Could,
slideshow again on environmental portraiture? You want to talk about it?
yes, could you go over it again, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Let me grab it. Let me get it here. Let's see here. All right, I'm going to share my screen. You guys see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, like I said last week and in the handout, I like to, when we talk about environmental portraiture, I like to break it up into 3 sections. Okay. And again, this first one, occupational, it's pretty self-explanatory. All right. Occupational, something about this image and this environment. It's going to tell us all about this individual and what he does for a living. Okay. What do you think this guy does?
Baker.
Yeah. Occupational.
Woodworker.
Yeah. This environment says as much about the shot as the actual subject. Pastry
And
chef.
in all of the photos, people are looking at the camera. Is that necessarily?
It's not mandatory. You can certainly have people looking off camera. Sometimes that adds a different feel to the image. I've always said that if you have somebody like working on their craft, okay, like it drives me crazy. There was a shot of I saw somebody do a portrait of a department head, and he was the head of this department of art at this college, and his specialty was sculpture, and he was using this grinder on this piece of metal and grinding away, and he was looking up at the camera, kind of smiling, and I always thought that looked kind of cheesy. I mean, if he's actually performing his craft and working on this sculpture or painting, they should be concentrating on what they're doing and not looking at the camera. That makes it more of a, I don't, it just seems real cheesy to me. So in that aspect, him working on his craft, working on some sculpture, it becomes very documentary in style. But you could still think about shooting in that environment where he's standing by his sculpture with his grinder just kind of hanging at one side and one arm, looking at the camera. You're going to get the same feel. You're going to understand where he is and what he's doing. It's just, I always say, if you have them actually performing their craft, if they're playing their guitar or their violin or they're baking their bread, or, have them concentrate on what they're doing, not so much looking at the camera. Okay. Because then it looks really forced and really fake. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
If this guy
definitely.
here was actually using this device to rake these cranberries in this bog, but he was still looking at the camera, it doesn't make any sense to me. But the fact that he's just standing there with his tool, looking at the camera in this cranberry bog, then you understand, you get the same feel. You know what he's doing. I think eye contact here, it means everything for this shot. And here. you know, Not you don't have a lot of eye contact here, but it's still a very relaxed feel. It's not forced by any stretch.
Now I had asked you about this image last week,
Yeah.
and you had said, and I had said the fact that the light falls off, about halfway down her body, and you can't. Everything else just kind of fades to black. And you said that really wasn't that much of an issue because the focus is that we can see her face. She's in a church. Clearly, she holds some kind of position.
Right.
So
Well,
that,
again, now I remember that question, but I also remember saying that, this could be a result of a really low res JPEG.
okay.
That you're not seeing the detail that you normally would. But also, Michael, I don't think it bothers me because it creates this natural vignette, to where her face is just kind of glowing. All right.
Right.
And it's just kind of this angelic feel, which to me, I feel like we're in a church, so it kind of fits the way her whole face is vignetted with, let's see here. Let's see. Her whole face is vignetted here, right? Uh-oh. That's not what I wanted to do. Huh. Yeah, you have like it vignetting with the structure of the church, right? Here works as a vignette, and then here, right? So to me, it really doesn't bother me that she gets vignetted like that. You know, and you lose the detail on the bottom. I don't think it's a huge deal. But again, it could very well be because it's such a low res image. There could very well be more detail in the original.
Okay. And I hadn't considered about the vignetting.
Yeah, I think it's you know, and again, I don't think there's a whole lot more detail there than what you're seeing, and I don't think it really bothers me at all because it is all about this, right? Oh, I keeps doing that. Occupational. See how this guy's concentrating on what he's doing? I think
Yeah.
that's good. We don't want him staring at the camera and getting ready to chop his fingers off with whatever this is. But you know, again, this shot here, looking off camera, there's nothing wrong with that. There's no eye contact there with the camera. There, if there were eye contact, I think it would be, you know, a really strong image as well. Super strong here. Again, he's actually working his craft. This would have been super cheesy if he, you know, if he were looking at the camera with a smile on his face, with his arms down here, actually working on this fabric. So this is where eye contact doesn't work. There's no eye contact there, but this is a pretty killer shot, you know, just because of the camera angle, how low that camera angle is. I mean, it's really, really fabulous shot. Corporate. So you had occupational, now we have corporate. It's got more of that executive feel to it, okay? And who knows if this guy here is an executive, but you know, the shirt, the tie, the jacket over the shoulder, he's probably just a model for hire. But it's got a very corporate feel to it. Very corporate feel to it with the cityscape in the background. This is almost borderline cheesy with him holding his clipboard and he's signing his name or something and looking at the camera with that smile. I'm not sure I would have had him do that, but you get the idea. I think it's a really nice shot. The composition, I think, is incredibly strong. The way they framed him in there. I'm not crazy about his pose and his just a little cheesy with a smile. Not so much here. I think this one works. This one, I just thought it was kind of a fun shot. I threw it in there. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but be very aware of this here. Everybody see my pointer with his hands?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
His hands. We call that the fig leaf, okay? Fig leaves are no good. Just have them drop their hands down to their side, okay? This to me just I just hate it when I see portraits and everybody's got their hands crossed like that. No fig
What,
leaves, all right?
what about their hands in their back? Like, you know,
I don't know. I mean, just have them hands down to their side. I
yeah.
mean, and hands are tough. They really are. It's a tough call. A lot of people are very uncomfortable, and that's the first thing they want to do. I think I do it. You know, they want to put those hands in front and do that classic fig leaf look. But to me, it looks very forced. I think just get them to relax, take a deep breath, tell them to shake their hands, just drop them down to their side. Um, you know, again, you want them to feel as natural as possible, and that's where you're going to run into your biggest issues is getting people who are not used to being in front of the camera to look comfortable.
I have a question. I have heard that we shouldn't cut the image in the joints. So
Say again.
so let me think. We shouldn't cut the image in the joints of the people like elbows or knees or something like that because that looks weird. Is that true?
Well, you have to think about the angles that it creates with arms and legs and elbows and you know, it's hard to say without seeing an image to go by. But just be aware. Hands are my big issue. You know, when I see a hand and I don't see all the fingers, they look like they got chopped off in shop class. You know, you got to be careful with that. When you're shooting people, hands are very important if they're in the shot. You got to keep your eye on them. And I do a couple fashion shoots a year, and I'm always looking at the hands. Always looking at the hands. Because they can look a little odd at times, and they look like they're missing a finger or two if they're clenched too tight. You don't want it. You don't want any hands to be any white knuckled clench. You want everybody to relax. Tell them to shake their hands, drop them down to their side. Here the hands work great here because you have the rope from this ring serving as a prop basically within the environment that he can do something with his hand. So that's very relaxing to him. Editorials kind of, again, go ahead.
Sir, could we go back one image, please?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't get this image. And like Maria was saying about cutting people off at certain joints or whatever, isn't this guy cut off? I mean, what?
Yeah, it all depends. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but it all depends on what is down below here.
Okay. But I can't
I don't know.
I can't figure out if he's the subject of this picture or the Roman columns in the back.
Well, but do you see this sign right here?
Oh, I didn't see that. I'm sorry. Wall Street.
It says, this says more about this, and the Roman columns say more about the shot than the individual to me.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That little sign there, I didn't see that, but that establishes everything.
Yeah, that's the balance you're looking for. That's why, to me, everything happening back here is just as important. This guy means nothing to me, but you place him within this environment with a shirt and a tie, okay, and you see this little hint of Wall Street right here. That tells me he works on Wall Street. He's an executive. He works. I don't know what he does. He's a bean counter somewhere. I don't know, but yeah, I don't have a problem with the columns. I think it makes a lot of sense when you couple it with just that hint of that street sign there that says Wall Street.
Okay. I'm sorry. I did not see
No. Don't apologize. But, I'm not crazy about the crop. I don't quite understand that.
Right.
I would love to have seen what this thing looked like full frame. I have a feeling there was a lot going on down here on the bottom, which means, okay, you take a super low angle and you shoot up. Make Wall Street look even more majestic. Take a super low angle. columns, with, converging lines with those columns, and make him look even more majestic, more prominent. We gave George here something to do with his hands. We don't need the fig leaf, okay? Very comforting for these models to be able to do something with their hands. The editorial shots now, again, everything we've been looking at can be considered editorial, guys. It's all editorial, all right? This individual, evidently does something with the church, I would guess, right? This woman, I think this is a beautiful portrait, guys, but we don't quite know enough about this woman because of the environment, or, she's a dog lover, fine. But this is the type of image that, needs that story. You open up D magazine and there's a story about this woman who rescues dogs. Who knows? But, we need that story to back up these photos. Okay. The two work together to tell the story. But the photo on its own is a great portrait. Beautiful portrait. Not quite sure what the story is. Here's the shot I think I was talking about earlier. Was that you, Maria, or Teresa?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this was the shot I was telling you about.
Yeah, and I like that image because I don't need to see the whole violin to understand.
No, not at all. I think that's what makes it. Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful portrait. Natural light. This shot here has always been very disturbing to me because when I first found this shot, I thought, well, that's an interesting image. To me, it reminded me of like an album cover, for a country and western star. But then after I loaded it up and I even went a year or so showing it to people. I never realized that this was like a dead deer right here. Do you see that?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Isn't that not bizarre? Which made me really question. I was like, what the heck is that? And somebody pointed it out to me. Is that a deer? And I was like, well, no, it's not a deer. But then you look
What's
at it.
that underneath it too? Like that white part. What's that?
I think that's just a reflection there.
Okay.
But that definitely looks like a dead deer to me, and it's just kind of weird. But I think it's a really nice portrait, and it's kind of a fun portrait, and I could see this as an album cover for this country and western girl. But then I don't get that. But again, I mean, look the way she's framed. You see how she's framed in that one little opening there in the trees? That's not accidental, okay? That's very well planned. The way she's vignetted here. You see this vegetation down in the foreground, how it's soft and out of focus, but it creates this natural vignette. Darker areas up here create this vignette, and she just kind of pops out off of this background. Again, not a real exciting environment, but a beautiful portrait. But what is the story with this guy? We need that story to tell us a little bit more about the individual.
They used another kind of lighting with this, didn't they?
Yeah, there's a lot of these have strobe lighting in them. Not this one. I think that this is just natural light. I think it's a really beautiful portrait of this woman, but what's her story? We're not quite sure. It's almost like this is one photo of 5 or 6 that tell this documentary style story of this woman along with a story that goes along with it. You know, I think this is one of those classic wasted opportunities for a good photo. I think you had all the elements there, and I don't think this photographer quite got there. I think, there's just some things he could have done. To me, he could have done much differently. You could have really cropped in tight on. I think this photo could have been cropped super tight. We didn't need to see all this out here, and all of this truck, and all of this guitar to know what was going on. We could have really tightened up, simplified the shot, made it more about this guy here. Just see the neck of the guitar. That's all you need to see, right? Pretty classic shot. Who knows where the location is? Doesn't matter. Super tight, all about this individual and his instrument. Pretty cool shot of this guy. I'd like to know the story about him.
Would you have cropped in on this one also?
I don't think so. I like the wide open space because it gives me that feeling of, you're in this big expanse, this big area, and these planes can fly forever. No, this one doesn't bother me at all. I think it's a great shot. This is just, CEO of a surfboard company out in California. This is probably how he dresses every day for work, hanging out in the sand dunes. I'm quite sure why I put this shot in there. I thought it was just kind of funny. We could probably have a story about who this individual is and the significance of, is that his horse? Is this where he works? It's a great shot. Love the symmetry in it. You look at you have this 1, 2, 3. I look at those 3 shapes there, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Just this repetition of 3s in there throughout the image. 1, 2, 3.
Was that intentional?
I don't know, Michael. If I were the photographer, I would say yes, but sometimes accidents just happen and they just work out. They just do. Whether he intended, I think he's pretty much in control of this shot. I'll be honest with you. Very much in control, and again, if I had a criticism, I would say it's because this guy is in the center of the frame. But it's not awful. It's not awful because the space around him works. I try to visualize if the camera had, gone to the left a little bit. Maybe you saw one more window over here and the frame cut off right there. Who knows? That's the beauty of it. You're the photographer, right?
Yes.
And this shot, I don't know why I put this shot in there. Yeah. Pretty cheesy, pretty corny. This is a real nice shot. Really beautiful portrait. Another one. Getting borderline glamour shotted, but I think the fact that it's, you know, natural light, wherever this location is. You know, not a bad portrait. I'm not crazy about the lighting, but I think the setup is kind of nice. Very strong editorial feel to it. Again, this is one of those shots that reminds me of an album cover. I don't know. I think I probably would have, you know, moved the camera over a little bit. Now it's very structured. It's straight on, and I'm sure that was on purpose, how structured all this is. Okay, look how perfectly this part of the swing, the line, measures up with that bridge pillar back there. So shooting straight on, I get it, but I think I would have just shifted my camera this way a little bit to get rid of some of this. You look at that and tell how they lit that, huh? Boom, boom. This shot here I thought was real pretty because, you know, again, you don't have the eye contact, but it's not your typical cutesy little shot of somebody's little girl, okay? But it does look like it belongs to a larger group of photographs, a documentary style of photography, talking about this little girl, maybe her family. Really pretty, beautiful light. Same with this guy. Don't quite know the story with this guy. You know, would this shot be as powerful if it were just you sitting there, Michael?
I think it is kind of compelling. It's neat the way they photographed it.
I think it's beautiful, but I think
Yeah.
it would be beautiful with anybody sitting there.
Okay,
You know, not just a movie star.
right.
That tends to get people's attention a little bit more, and they tend to look past the actual content of, you know, and the composition and things like, oh, look at that, that's Hugh Grant. Well, what if that were just you doing that? Would that still be a really nice photograph? Sure, it would. It doesn't have to be a movie star or a famous person to make a really nice photograph. Okay, to me, this is more about the location, more about the lighting than it is who's being photographed. This is more, you know, the kind of studio shot that I was telling you about. Of course, we can't use strobe lighting, but again, you could throw somebody up against a brick wall and have their wardrobe and their props tell us something about them. What is it? What's the story with this guy? Really cool portrait, beautiful portrait. The story doesn't really tell us enough about him. Is he a gardener? Does he own a nursery? Does that help?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Go back to that. Okay, it's uploaded on eCampus. Look at it. Think about some of those shots. Think about how simple some of those shots are. But again, you know, it's all up to you. You are in control. All right. Uh, have you guys ever heard of the photographer by the name of Henry Cartier-Bresson?
Yes.
You've heard of
Yeah.
Bresson,
Yeah.
the decisive moment. Okay. Well, Bresson, I found this quote the other day, and I made a screenshot of it, and it made a lot of sense to me. I'm trying to upload this screenshot. Hold on just a second. All right. It is an illusion that photos are made with the camera. They are made with the eye, the heart, and the head. All right. The camera is a tool, guys. It's a light, tight box. All right. That records what you see, not what the camera sees, but what you see. All right. It records what you feel. It composes the way you want to compose. The camera's not in control. You are in control. All right. So that's why I say get out and scout the location. Really think about where you're going to put an individual within that location. But remember, the camera is a tool. All right. The camera is just a tool. This is your shot. It's your photography. The camera is going to help you produce what it is you want the final output to be. All right. But you're making this photograph. All right. We're not taking pictures anymore. We're making photographs. That's what it's all about. All righty.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay. Well, look, this is probably going to be this will be your last assignment. All right. For the semester, and then what we're going to do is after next week, we're going to start talking about your final. You'll have a final portfolio due, which I think our final is going to be probably in about a month. Let's see here, maybe not so, maybe a little longer than that. I think our final is May 11th. All right. That's 5 weeks away. All right. So after this, you guys are going to have to come up with a proposal as to what you want to shoot for your final portfolio, whether it's still lifes, whether it's cityscapes, landscapes, environmental portraits. I'm going to leave it open to whatever you want to do, but I want you to think about, the stuff that we've talked about this semester, and with dealing with color theory and monochromatic color schemes and complementary color schemes and the rule of thirds and leading lines and all these little techniques we've talked about and all the things we've talked about. I want you to incorporate those into your final portfolio. And again, I'm going to throw this out there. I am not opposed to you guys shooting some black and white if you feel like black and white is going to be the best way to show your image. All right. I am not at all opposed to that. I know this class was about color, but we spent a lot of time talking about color. I want to talk about just making really great photographs. And if black and white is the way you want to go, you think it's going to be the best way, you can convince me of it. But don't, talk to me about it beforehand. All right. Look at it, your image in color. Look at it in black and white, and explain to me why you think the black and white works better. All right. Is that a deal?
Yes.
Yes. Deal.
Okay. All right. Well, you guys have a great week. Again, we will meet next Thursday night for this critique for the portraitures. Be thinking about your final critique, your final portfolio. Probably you're going to need to do between 5 and 6 images for your final. I haven't decided yet. So you don't want to wait till the last week. You're going to, you got a few to work on, a few to do. You really can't use anything that you already shot this semester. I'm not going to allow that. So be thinking about that, what you're going to do for your final, and we'll talk more about it next week after critique. All right.
Okay, so it's like a theme that we're gonna do, like for
You
final.
could certainly do a theme. You could make it kind of a photo essay if you wanted to, tell a story with your photographs about an individual, where they work, where they live, things like that. I'm certainly open to that. If you want to do, I think last year, Michael, you just did really cool cityscapes, um, which all worked as a cohesive body of work. We had people who did portraits last year.
What about abstracts?
Yeah, you could do abstracts if you want. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, I'm just thinking. That's
Yeah.
having
No,
stuff
no,
going through my head right now.
I think that'd be good. Sure.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
All right. Absolutely. Any other questions? Michael, you doing okay? You gonna get caught up with me?
Yes, I am going to get caught up with you.
All right. Keep
Yes,
in touch with me. Let me know what's going on. All right, buddy?
Okay, yes, I will. Yes, sir.
All right. All right, guys. Contact me if you have any questions. If you take some pictures and you want to show me, just, email them to me. I'll make sure I check this email every morning. You're better off sending it to my personal email if you want to get me right away. So that's the gmilano@me.com. So you can send it there. And I will do my best to be home by 7 next week. All right. I may be running a little late. All right.
Okay.
All right. You guys have a great week.
You too. Have a good Easter.
Hey, you too. You guys be safe. Have a good holiday.
You too. Thank you.
Yep.